this camera on. Look good? Maybe, I don't know. Shit, poop bottle fell. Look good. I'm gonna sit right here. Yeah, I guess it looks. That time I heard it. That time I heard it. That time I heard it. Hello? That time I heard it. There's nothing there. Just keep it. Oh, fucking love of me. Fucking shit, my bottles probably fucking fell. I really thought this place was haunted. Jesus Christ. No, I definitely caught that on camera. I definitely. Hello? Hello? Boo, did I scare you? Sorry about that. Didn't mean to scare you. If I did, I'm sure I did. If you don't know what we're going to be talking about today from that little intro I just made, we're going to be talking about found footage movies. And this isn't just pertain to horror movies. This is pertain to anything really found footage like, because there are found footage movies that aren't technically horror movies. For example, Searching or Missing. Now, those aren't really horror found footage, but they're pretty much like thriller found footage movies, and I love those. Those are basically like Unfriended the horror movie, or like Host. They're basically through the lens of the laptop or through the lens of technology, going through like the plot and stuff like that, which can be used very, very well. And there are some movies like that that cannot do very well, and I'm not talking about any particular movie that recently came out by Amazon, but it's there, unfortunately. But today we're going to be talking about a thing, and it is found footage dead? Now, that's a really interesting question, because a lot of people will give you different answers. People will say, yes, found footage has been dead. It's been a dead genre. No one really likes found footage anymore. And then you have people where they're saying, like, yes, found footage is at its peak right now. Ever since COVID happened, the pandemic, movies like The Host, movies like those are kind of triumphing into the found footage top 10, like movies like Late Night with the Devil, which really isn't like the normal found footage. It's like directed through the lens of a live TV broadcast, but it's still found footage in its essence. And then you have those that are like kind of like me, where I am hopeful for the found footage genre, and I think that found footage can be the scariest, one of the scariest horror genres out there if it's done right. Now, there are literally hundreds of found footage movies. Like, there are tons of them, and there are, I feel like, more bad than there are good. And, well, where do I begin? I'm going to begin with one of my favorite found footage movies of all time, and that's no-brainer. It's The Blair Witch Project. Now, don't say, like, oh, you're just a normal horror fan. Of course he's going to say The Blair Witch Project. Why wouldn't he? Well, I think Blair Witch Project really defined the found footage genre. Obviously, movies came before that were found footage. I mean, you have the Cannibal Holocaust that was pretty much banned in most countries because of how graphic it was. And you have all these other like found footage movies that came out in the 1980s. They weren't really like the found footage that we know today. But Blair Witch in 1999 really set it up, because for the marketing aspect of it, people thought it was real. Like, people actively thought it was real. And I feel like that makes it even scarier. Obviously, I was not I was in a teenager or an adult when that movie came out. I watched that years, even over a decade later, probably on my laptop. So it made it even scarier because it was condensed. It wasn't on a TV, and it was just right in front of me. And I felt that I was in the found footage world of Blair Witch. There isn't really any jump scares of a of a witch or anything. There isn't anything that is gory. It's not. It's more tension building atmosphere, and I feel like for a found footage horror movie, that's where it's at its peak. And you have the Paranormal Activity movies that came out. There's like, God, there's what, 6 or 7 of them now. I believe there's a whole set of them, as you can see. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7, and the next of kin that recently came out, I think it was during COVID, that came out. So that was pretty much the last one. I'm pretty sure they're all done making the Paranormal Activity movies. But yeah, Paranormal Activity is a genre that I always bring up, or anyone really brings up when they talk about found footage, because it really, in the 2000s, it really capsulated what found footage would be in the 2010s and now in the 2020s. So, I mean, the first one, my favorite, if we're really going down what my favorite Paranormal Activity, like, horror movie is, just really quickly, it's got to be probably 3. I think Paranormal Activity 3 is scarier because it deals with kids, and when kids are seeing things that the adults can see or can't see, it gets a little scarier. But the first one is always going to be the best, and I think 1, 2, and 3 are probably the peak. Everything else is kind of really bad. Like Paranormal Activity 4 and The Ghost Dimension are utter trash. Like, here are a few found footage movies that I do have that are horror. Told you I like collecting movies in physical media. Unfriended and Unfriended the Dark Web are 2 of them. These movies, I will say, I like them a lot more than most people do. I actually feel like I like the second one a little bit more than the first, although the first one, I just feel like the second one, Dark Web, had the more realistic approach with the Dark Web, because the Dark Web is scary, so there's that. You have Apollo 18 here that I have. It's not the greatest. It's mediocre. And then one of my favorites, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, a Korean horror film, and it is just a masterpiece. This one is Grave Encounters if Grave Encounters was really, really good. It is terrifying, it is scary, it is just, it's really, really good. And then the last one I have, I also have, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? I also have Late Night with the Devil, Speak Of. And then also, this video is just me talking about found footage movies. I love it. VHS, the VHS series. I only have VHS 2, but like the recent VHS movies that came out in the 2020s, I believe like VHS 90, I can pull them up right now. We have, so we have the original VHS 1, we have VHS 2, VHS Viral, which I did not like. That was the third one. That was probably the goofiest of them all. And then we started getting into the better ones. VHS 94 came out in 2021. And then we had VHS 99, VHS 85, and then the recent one that came out last year, VHS Beyond. And I believe they're filming another one, and I think it's really cool that they do different directors, and it's like different stories. And when I think of found footage movies, I think of the VHS movies, of how they're kind of keeping it alive. I mean, they keep making them. They're not critically, acclaimed, but I feel like a lot of horror people, including myself, do like the stories. Some stories hit, some stories don't, and it's usually like 5 of them in like each movie, 5 individual stories, and maybe like 1 overlapping story, which is really cool. And some of them are hits and misses, some of them are bad, some of them are really good, really original. And that's a VHS franchise. And then you have movies like bringing up Grave Encounters. When I first watched Grave Encounters when that came out, I didn't watch it when I came out. I was probably like 13 or 14, again on my laptop. So as a 13, 14-year-old, Grave Encounters was fucking terrifying. And then the sequel came out and it was so bad. And then I rewatched the first one and I'm like, oh, it's still okay. It's not as great as I remember it being, though. But what I'm also here to talk about is really just found footage. And I think found footage is a lost horror genre, and I feel like it can be done well. Found footage can be really scary if it's done correctly. And a lot of movies haven't been doing that. In the 2010s, there haven't been a lot of good ones that really hit the mark for it. And what I'm talking about is movies like Apollo 18, Troll Hunter, The Devil Inside, Chernobyl Diaries. I did not like. I was thinking I was gonna like the Chernobyl found footage movie. I did not like it. There were other ones that came out. As Above, So Below. That came out in 2014, and I actually did like As Above, So Below. After rewatching it a few times, there were cringy moments. There were moments where I kind of rolled my eyes, but in an essence, the movie itself is, the idea is scary. And I did like that. And so it's not like the worst found footage. It's not the best either, but it's a pretty solid found footage movie. In the 2010 area, those movies that I just listed, we also got the VHS movies, some of them, and then in the 2020s really boomed up the last like 3 or 4 VHS sequels. And so that's really where found footage really started to move. But then there was the early 2000s, including 1999, where I think the found footage really had its like core. You had the Blair Witch Project, you had the Paranormal Activity and its sequels, you had Cloverfield, you had the original Rec and Rec 2, which I actually have Rec as well. Fucking love Rec. Rec 2 is good. Rec 3 and 4, that's just a lost cause at that point, those other 2 movies. You have I never saw the remake of Rec, Quarantine, the American version. I never saw that. You have the fourth kind, the Poughkeepsie tapes, I believe that's what it's called. I recently watched it, I think like 2 years ago. It was very interesting because it brought the idea of, what if like this was real? And it was done well and not as well. And I thought it was really good, though. And then there was another one that was kind of like that called Lake Mungo, and it was like a mock documentary, like style, like horror movie. And kind of with the Poughkeepsie tapes where it was like going through this like documentary kind of style. Don't worry about that. That is just for the background. It's supposed to do that. My God, it's actually going haywire. Maybe I'm in danger. Anyways. You have those 2 movies that are kind of like documentary horror kind of style intros, and they're done pretty good. I wouldn't like necessarily call them like bad, but they were done pretty well. Now, one that recently came out, I believe it was called in 2011, Megan is Missing. I hate this movie. A lot of people love Megan is Missing, like love it, and I watched it and I literally had to turn it off. And then I rewatched it again. The second time I rewatched it, it was somebody reviewing the movie, and then I was like, that's what I was missing. That's bad. So obviously I didn't really finish the movie. It's just, for me, it just wasn't good. It was really like, it was low budget. Now, not to say that low budget movies are horrible, because the budget of this one was only $35,000. But for a movie like the Blair Witch Project, the Blair Witch Project, so the budget was $60,000. Yeah, so the original Blair Witch Project did have like a $30,000 more. It was between $35,000 and $60,000. But for what it was worth, it was really good. But then you also have Paranormal Activity budget. That movie's budget was $15,000. That is not a lot. That is something that I can make. That is something that most people can make, and it blew up. It made over $200 million, I believe, at the box office, and it made $194 million at the box office, still from a $15,000 budget. So not to say that low budgets like that can't be really good. Megan is Missing was just, not that it was just bad acting. It was really like the acting took me out of the scares. And obviously, when that happens, acting isn't everything in a film, but when it's really like the focal point of a found footage movie, then it's a problem. Like, when I made my short film, Limina, acting really wasn't the standard main interest in what I was doing. I was worried about shots, scares, lighting. I was more worried about that aspect, but when it's a found footage movie, you're mostly with someone with a camera. So there's more dialogue than most, and a lot of the times it can be improvised, it can be scripted. I believe, what movie was it? I believe it was Unfriended, the first one, where the director, they were all in like the same house. The director was in one room or another room, and he would do something off script to scare the actors. I think that's really cool, and I think found footage can be done if all these elements that I'm mentioning can be fused into one like found footage movie. It could be done phenomenally, and I still think it can be, and it's still gaining traction. You have movies that have recently come out. In the 2020s, you have Host, which was about like 60 minutes. It was, I believe, I watched it on Shudder, and it was during the COVID pandemic. So it was that idea of, oh, we can't really see each other in person, so we have to do this on Zoom. And it was, for what it was really good. And for 60 minutes, I was like, that was really great. You have Spree with Joe Keery, and although that really isn't full on like horror, like Unfriended or Paranormal Activity, it's like a thriller horror, and it was done really. I thought it was cool. Obviously, there were some like it's uneasy kind of horror. You're in the Uber drivers, talking about killing you. So there's that. I thought that was done really well. The new VHS movies that have come out. And then also this movie called Hell House. And they've come out with sequels. Now, I watched the first one. I rewatched the first one, actually, probably maybe almost less than a year ago. I've never seen any of the sequels, so I think that's probably going to be a homework that I'm going to be working on. But that one was interesting because it's all done in like a haunted house. It feels real. People say that the sequels are pretty good for cult reasons, for the classic cult following that it's followed that it's gained. And honestly, I can see how a movie like Hell House can garner a following like that. It's really like, it's thrilling found footage, and there's more lore to the story, I guess, because there's obviously sequels, and the one that recently came out, Hell House LLC Origins, I believe they're coming out with another one soon. But you have that movie, you have Late Night with the Devil, which I just talked about, and you also have something that came out on YouTube, which is Milk and Cereal. Now, I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but from what I saw and from what everyone's talking about, from an $800 YouTube video, short, phenomenal. And that is a goal for me one day, and I think that anyone can really do it if you have the right aspect, the right atmosphere, the right ingredients for a found footage movie. So, I mean, it's not that found footage is dead. I don't think it's necessarily dead. And I think especially with these movies that have like the laptop kind of aspect, I know they're not horror movies, but I talked about them searching and missing, which I believe not the directors or writers themselves were on both movies, but people were, I believe the editors or at least some of the producers or staff or crew, was on like searching, did also or helped out with missing. So I think that's really cool. And then you also have a low ball like War of the Worlds with Ice Cube. That's not a horror movie, but that's obviously found footage in its essence because it's through a laptop, and we don't need to talk about that one. That's honestly, you should watch that movie so you know what not to do in a found footage movie based off on a laptop. And then you also in 2014 also had The Taking of Deborah Logan. Now, at first, it wasn't really acclaimed as what it was, but then when it came on like streaming, and that's where I watched it, it was another documentary-style horror film. It was just done really good, I think. There were parts, obviously, where it's not like the whole shebang of what a horror found footage movie like Paranormal Activity is, but it has the lore building and story building aspect. So for a story building aspect, I think The Taking of Deborah Logan did it really well. They also need a reason to have cameras or the found footage themselves. The one thing I hate, and especially it happened after, I believe, Paranormal Activity 3, really, maybe even in the third one itself, but they just pick up a camera and they don't say anything of why. If they're just recording the thing that's happening, they don't explain why they're recording. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I feel like there has to be a reason why there's a found footage movie in the first place. Like, oh, maybe this was a found footage tape that we found. Maybe there were ghost hunters, Grave Encounters, Gonjam Haunted Asylum, for instance. Anything really, like a live TV show broadcasting Late Night with the Devil. VHS is a good example because people find these VHS tapes that people have taped over, and that makes, I guess, sense in a way because, I mean, we're all live in a day and age with technology now. We're all fucking recording everything, so it makes sense. So not only do you need atmosphere, you need a reason of why the found footage movie is there. You need good dialogue, but not oversaturated cringiness. Like when we got into the Paranormal Activity ones, some of them got really like cringy in a sense, and it just became too much. It was too much of the story and not as much of the found footage itself. You obviously need a story. You need character building. And I believe you can do character building. There are great examples of character building. Late Night with the Devil, which builds a character, like the host of the show, it builds his character without giving you away too much, but not giving you too little. So I think, honestly, I just wanted to talk about found footage for a little bit because, honestly, I've been really dabbling into thinking about making a found footage movie for a little bit. Even if it's a really short one, I've had some ideas that I hope I can get out soon. Really short ones, even like if it's like a few minutes. But found footage really can be scary. And I don't think that found footage is dying out. I think found footage can and will continue. But I think that there's always going to be hits and there's always going to be misses. And I also think that with what happened with COVID, with all of us being centralized to Zoom, centralized to just on a screen on a laptop, it can really bounce off. Now, obviously, COVID is over, and a lot of the laptop, not to say that it's like dying out, but it's definitely coming to its cycle where it can continue and become better, or it's just going to repeat to be really boring and, all of that. I don't think found footage is dead. I truly think that it's something that can continue for as long as we have electronics, video, anything. And I feel like people are really creative in what they do, and I hope to do something with that as well, for the found footage genre. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about found footage, just maybe show you a little bit of my collection as well, talk about what I like about found footage, some of my favorites. I didn't really get into all the detail. A lot of people talk about found footage, and so I just wanted to make this video to talk about it. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a comment, like, subscribe. If you want me to do another horror video topic or any movie topic, just let me know in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.